Hi everyone, this is Learning with Linda, and today I bring you an update regarding the incoming tax season for 2024. Now guys, officially tax season is set to begin on January 29th, so in this video we are including some other important dates you must also keep in mind. And then also there's the IRS free file that, by the way, that is now open. That's pretty much going to help you file your taxes for free, and it's a great tool you can use if you need to. Also, for those of you that track mileage reimbursement, the IRS mileage reimbursement rate is also increasing in 2024. Then there's also another deadline for employers, and this is a deadline you should actually keep in mind as well. If you're currently working and you're waiting on your W-2 forms, the deadline for employers would be January 31st, and this would be the deadline for them to submit your form. So make sure you guys stay until the end of this video to ensure that you receive this information. Now, before we get started, if you're interested in the latest news regarding stimulus, child tax credit, SNAP, PEBT, and everything in between, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below. Now let's get right to it. And in case you missed it in one of my previous videos, this is the official announcement that tax season for 2024 is set to begin on January 29th. Now, the Internal Revenue Service announced on Monday, January 29th, as the official start date of the nation's 2024 tax season, which is pretty much when the agency is going to begin accepting and processing the 2023 tax returns. Now, the IRS expects more than 128.7 million individual tax returns to be filed by the April 15th tax deadline. Now, although the IRS will not officially begin accepting and processing tax returns until January 29th, remember that people do need to wait until then to work on their taxes. But if you're using like software companies or tax professionals, some of these software companies can even accept your electronic submissions and then hold them until the IRS is ready to begin processing later this month. So just like with any other tax season, there's a couple of important dates one must keep in mind in order to make sure that we're meeting some of these deadlines, right? So again, January 29th is when the official 2024 tax season begins, and that's actually when the IRS will start accepting and processing the individual 2023 tax returns. April 15th would be the national due date to file a 2023 tax return, but if you need to, that would also be the deadline to request an extension and then pay taxes owed. April 17th would be the deadline for two states, which would be for residents of Massachusetts and Maine. And so this is pretty much their deadline to file their federal tax return because of state holidays. Now, if anyone here is living abroad, just keep in mind that June 17th would be the tax deadline for Americans living abroad. In the month of July, that would be the deadline to claim your 2020 tax refund. And then October 15th is another important date to keep in mind, which is this is pretty much the due date to file for those requesting an extension on their 2023 tax returns. But again, that due date only applies if you requested an extension. Now, the IRS does offer extensions in the event of a disaster. It's another important thing to keep in mind. You may be eligible for an extension to file your return and pay your tax bill if you are in a federally declared disaster area. Now, in most cases, you will not need to request an extension since this will be given out to you automatically. And then, of course, when we talk about taxes, another important topic we need to cover is tax refunds. So keep in mind, guys, that there's a couple of factors that can affect the timing of a refund after the IRS receives your tax return. Now, the agency has said in several occasions that most refunds are issued in less than 21 days. However, it cautions taxpayers not to rely on receiving a refund by a certain date because, again, several things can come into play, particularly when making major purchases or paying bills. Now, again, taxpayers can check a refund status by using the Where's My Refund tool, and that is available online. The agency also said that it cannot issue the Earned Income Tax Credit or the Additional Child Tax Credit refunds before mid-February as part of the Federal Protecting Americans from Tax Hikes Act. Now, the IRS expects most ACTC related funds to be available in taxpayer bank accounts or on debit cards by February 27th if they chose direct deposit, and then of course there are no other issues with their tax return. And for those of you that are starting to get your taxes ready, and let's say you decide to file early, so here's an estimated tax refund calendar. So let's say, again, the IRS tax season starts on January 29th. Let's say that's when you decide to submit your forms, and that's when they are officially accepted by the IRS. If you submit anywhere between January 29th through February 3rd and your bank information's in your taxes and you choose direct deposit to be sent to you and you qualify for the refund, then it could be sent on February 23rd. But if you don't include your bank information, then they're automatically going to mail you a paper check, once again, if you qualified for a refund, and that could be mailed as soon as March 1st. If you decide to wait a little longer, let's say by the week of March 10th all the way through the 16th, anytime between then your 2023 tax return is accepted and your bank account information is included, the direct deposit can be sent on April 5th and not by paper check that could be mailed on April 12th. Now, another thing important worth mentioning here is that the IRS Free File tool is now available. So this one's going to be available for millions of taxpayers, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about how to qualify for this free online tool that you can use to file your taxes if you need to. And then also it would be ideal for those that have very simple tax forms. Let me provide you guys with all the details. So on January 12th, the Internal Revenue Service announced that the IRS Free File Guided Tax Software Service is ready for taxpayers to use in advance of the opening tax season later this month. So marking its 22nd filing season, the IRS Free File went live today, more than 2 weeks before the 2024 filing season start date. Remember, guys, that would be January 29th. The IRS starts accepting and processing individual tax returns on that date. So millions of taxpayers across the nation can access free software products provided by the IRS Free File Trusted Partners by visiting irs.gov. Taxpayers can get a head start on preparing their tax returns as free federal tax preparation and e-filing software is now available at the following website, which would be www.irs.gov/free file to all Americans with a 2023 adjusted gross income of $79,000 or less. Powered by the Free File Alliance, a coalition of 8 industry-leading tax software companies partner with the Internal Revenue Service, the Free File program gives eligible taxpayers free access to the industry's most innovative and secure tax software in order to easily prepare and e-file their federal tax returns. So each IRS Free File provider sets its own eligibility rules for products based on age, income, and state residency. And I'll show you guys shortly how to access this. So taxpayers with an adjusted gross income of $79,000 or less in 2023 will find a product that matches their needs. Now, some providers also offer free state return preparation. Active duty military can use any IRS Free File product if their adjusted gross income was $79,000 or less in 2023. And so let me show you how the IRS Free File tool works. First of all, you always want to make sure you are on the correct website. And again, the link is irs.gov/free filing. Once you go ahead and enter that or you Google that, it's going to take you here to the IRS Free File. It says do your taxes for free. Again, always double check you're on a .gov website. That's how you know you're under the governmental website. As you can see here, it says choose from IRS Free File, and they start off even with telling you right away the adjusted gross income for you to use this tool would be of $79,000 or less. So you go ahead and click here where it says explore free guided tax software. Then it's going to give you 2 options here. It says browse all trusted partners, where you can kind of just, let me go ahead and click on it, actually show you. So here's a couple of the different companies you can use. But again, it's all going to vary depending on your own tax needs, right? There's 1040, that's the 1040 now. There's a couple other ones like Free Tax USA. If we go ahead and go back, it gives us an option to find your trusted partners. This is a tool you can use, and it's going to ask you a little bit of your own information, and then they're going to pair you with some of the tax agencies that they would recommend for you to use. But again, I would only recommend this tool for anyone who has very simple tax returns. If you have a business or anything like that, then it's always a little bit better if you go with a tax professional. Okay. Now, for anyone that claims mileage also on their tax returns, if you guys remember this past year, the mileage was at 65.5 cents per mile. That's how much you would be able to get reimbursed. For this coming year, for 2024, seems like it went up. So it went up 1.5 cents from 2023. So it now increased to 67 cents a mile. And this is actually something that the IRS recently announced. So in December, the Internal Revenue Service issued the 2024 optional standard mileage rates used to calculate the deductible cost of operating an automobile for business, charitable, medical, or moving purposes. Now, beginning on January 1st of 2024, the standard mileage rates for the use of a car, also includes like vans, pickups, or panel trucks, will be 67 cents per mile driven for business use, which once again is up 1.5 cents from 2023. 21 cents per mile driven for medical or moving purposes for qualified active duty members of the armed forces, a decrease of 1 cent from 2023, and then also 14 cents per mile driven in service of charitable organizations, in which the rate is set by statute and remains unchanged from 2023. Here's a little bit of information for the 2023 IRS mileage rates, just so you can have something to compare it to. So for the 2023 tax years, the IRS standard mileage rates was of 65.5 cents per mile for business, and then it was 14 cents per mile for charity. When it came for medical and moving purposes, it was at 22 cents per mile. Now remember also that if you're self-employed or you work as a contractor, you might be able to deduct the cost of use of your car for business purposes. Now, if you had a job in 2023, this is the month where you should start looking at your mail and looking out for those W-2 forms that we typically receive from our employers. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is that employers do have a filing deadline that would be of January 31st. So here's the official reminder from the IRS, where January 31st, once again, it would be the filing deadline for employers to file wage statements and then also independent contractor forms. So let me give you guys all those details. So with tax season rapidly approaching, the IRS reminds employers that January 31st is the deadline for submitting wage statements and forms for independent contractors with the government. Now, employers must file their copies of Form W-2 wage and tax statement and Form W-3 transmittal of wage and tax statements with the Social Security Administration by January 31st. The January 31st deadline also applies to Forms 1099 miscellaneous income and Forms 1099 non-employee compensation that are filed with the IRS to report non-employee compensation to independent contractors. Now, various other due dates related to Form 1099s, Form 1099K, and Form 1099 NEC include dates due to the IRS, and these can be found on the form's instructions. And also remember that extensions to file are not automatically granted. Employers may request a 30-day extension to file Forms W-2 by submitting one of the following forms by January 31st. And the form was actually called the Application for Extension of Time to File Information Returns. Now, when it comes to Form 1099K, $600 reporting threshold delayed. That's something to keep in mind. This means that for 2023 and prior years even, payment apps and online marketplaces are only required to send out Forms 1099K to taxpayers who receive over $20,000 and have over 200 transactions. Now, for tax year 2024, the IRS plans for a threshold of $5,000 to phase in the reporting requirements. And that is all the updates that I have for today. Remember to turn on your notification button to know when I have uploaded a new video. See you guys next time.